Welcome back to the channel. So in about 22 days, Santa Claus is going to be here. So we're going to try to get our Christmas card out. What we usually do for our Christmas cards is put our animals on them and do some different props and things. This year we're going to have a baby to put in it. It'll be our daughter's first year being our Christmas card. So what we're going to do for the main prop is we're going to have a bed. And so with this unpressure treated 4x4, I'm going to make some bed posts, and then I'm going to be ripping down some of these boards, some of the scrap lumber that I have left over. And I'm going to make a little bed, and the dogs are going to be sitting on the bed with her. Two of our small dogs are going to be sitting on the bed with her, and then the two big dogs will be off to the side. It'll be in front of our Christmas tree. My wife's got it all figured out. I don't know. So I'm going to be the prop guy and get this built, and hopefully we'll have our Christmas card out here pretty soon. So these bed posts are gonna have 2x4s to go over the top. The rest of the bed's gonna be made out of 2x4s. I don't want them to be even with this. I want these to be a little bit smaller, so when the 2x4 covers it, there's no chance of seeing any of this post underneath. So I'm gonna cut it 3 inches by 3 inches, and I'm also gonna try to cut out things like this. I don't want knots or any major imperfections. So full disclosure, I didn't draw this thing up beforehand. My wife and I discussed a little bit, and that's about as far as it went. I'm gonna make it about 22 by 30. I don't know, I guess that'll look good. I want all the corners to be square. So if you look at lumber, you'll see how it's curved. And I don't really want it to be curved. I want everything to be square so I can make nice tight corners. Like I said, this is a prop, but we're probably gonna use it for a dog bed or something afterwards, so it doesn't totally go to waste. So I'm gonna make a 22 by 30 frame, which will be the bed. And I'm also gonna make it 3 inches wide. So I'm gonna use these 2x6s. And then that way I can get a good solid piece, and then I can use whatever pieces I rip off or something else in the future. So I always start by cutting off the edge of the board so I get a nice straight edge. And I want to make a frame that is 30 inches by 22 inches. And this is really important. So since your boards are 1.5 inches wide, then this 30-inch board and this 30-inch board are gonna take 3 inches away from this 22, which will give us 19 inches. So whenever you're building things like this, you wanna keep in mind how all the wood's gonna fit together. Because to build a 30 by 22 box or whatever, some of these boards are gonna have to be smaller than one of the dimensions are gonna have to be smaller than the other, than what you'd originally planned. And I want these I want the 30-inch boards to be showing, and these can be hidden inside. And you'll see what this looks like, and you'll see why I'm doing this later. So to make sure that I get a nice straight edge that isn't damaged, I'm gonna cut the board, cut just a sliver off, and then I'll go ahead and measure 30 inches, 30 inches, 19, and 19. And the reason I want to do that, I want to cut this first before I rip it down. It's just easier for me to handle smaller boards than a table saw when I'm working by myself. So I like cutting them first, then I'll run them all through the saw. So I want to get rid of these curves on this board. So I can't just go rip it down to 3 inches, because then I'm going to have a 3-inch board with a curve on one side. So I'm going to move this where the blade is just barely missing the fence. And I'll run one side through, measure out 3 inches, and then run the other side through. Oh, another tip, don't get this blade higher than it needs to be. I usually just go till I can just barely see the teeth. And then of course I don't have a guard on here, I just try to be careful. Okay, here's the frame that'll hold the kind of like the mattress portion. And the reason I wanted these at 30 is because I don't want to see the construction on the outside. So the only seam I have will be right here by this bed, and technically won't even be a seam. So I'm going to take care of these top rails next. And then all I'll have left is to cut some slats that'll go in the front here on the headboard and then the base here. I'm going to cut 2 pieces at 24 inches, and that's going to be the top of the headboard and then the top of the base. I don't know what you call that. What do you call that? Footboard? I don't know. Foot. So we're going to cut 2 of these, and then I'm going to rip them down to a little bit bigger than a little bit wider than 3 inches, because I want them to cover those posts up properly. And the reason I'm cutting them out at 24 is I'm going to leave a 1/2 inch gap where the little mattress section sits on the post. There'll be, after everything's screwed in, you'll see a 1/2 inch reveal there. So I'm going to have another 1/2 inch reveal at the top just to keep everything even. Okay, same thing, I want square edges. So I'm gonna get this pretty close to the blade. The height's still good. Run this. Okay, and here's the top boards. And they're gonna have a 1/2 inch reveal on all sides. And it'll be the same thing here. It'll match that 1/2 inch reveal down there. Okay, so I'm gonna have my 9-month-old daughter sitting on this. So I don't really want this too high. Heaven forbid she crawls off or something. So I just have this off the ground about 4.5 inches. And for these slats, I'm gonna come from the bottom of the bed frame here and come up to the top. Which is about 23.25 inches. So if I take the 24 inches, I'll just show you how I'm going to figure this out here. Hopefully I get it right. So let's start by going 12 inches in the center. And I have a 1/2 inch on each side, plus my 3 inches. So I have 3.5 here, and 3.5 here. So that means I have 7, so I have 17 inches to fill. So if I divide that by half, let's say I could put okay, so I turned off the camera to save you from that. I'm a chemist, not a mathematician. So I decided what I'm gonna do. I want 2-inch slats on here because I don't want them to be as wide as the posts, but I do want them to be, you know, pretty substantial. And so what I'm gonna do is put 5 2-inch slats on here, and then I'm gonna have about an inch and 1/8 inch and 3/16 gap between each one. So I'll have 6 gaps, 5 slats. It'll be the same thing for the other side. So I'll go ahead and cut them to length and then rip them down. 35 each board, 5 at 23.25 and 5 at 13.5. I'm gonna eventually I'm gonna rip these down to 2 inches, so that's why I'm gonna be using the 2x6. And so I don't wreck the rest of a 2x6, since I'm gonna have an odd number, then I'm just gonna cut the other 2 out of 2x4s. Okay, I have my 5 slats for both the top and the bottom. And I'm gonna stain this, so it doesn't have to be pretty, like, it doesn't have to be super smooth, but I do want to get some of the markings and stuff off. But I don't really want to take away any of the character of the wood. We're kind of going for the rustic look. Okay, I'm gonna get this assembled. I don't want to show any of the construction on the outside if I can avoid it. I'd like to kind of keep all the screws and everything internal. So I'm gonna use this white wood, screw this, or the wood that hasn't been stained. I'm gonna screw it into these rails on the sides, and then I'll screw these into the end. The posts are going to go here at the corner, so I can put screws here in the end. And I'm just drilling pilot holes to make sure the screws go where I want them to go. Okay, and later on, there'll just be a piece of plywood that sits in here. Okay, I want to make sure that I put the nicest face going up, because that's where I'm going to set the bed. So you'll actually see this part. If there's anything I can hide like this knot, I'll set it down here towards the bottom, so after the bed portion's on, it'll hide stuff like this. Okay, so I have my 1/2 inch reveal, 4.5 inches off the floor. I'm actually going to use 3-inch screws for this. Okay, I'm just going to square it up with a square. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so I have a 16 gauge nail gun that I'm going to shoot these in with, and then I'm going to just cover the holes with some wood filler, and then throw a little bit of sand over there, and then hit up these edges as well. For these spindles here on the back, They're just gonna get screwed on, and then I'll get them even at the top and shoot these in with that nail gun as well. Okay, it's coming along. All I have to do is put the spindles on the back here. I put screws in the spindles on the back just to make them a little bit stronger. They're span a little bit further, but here in the back I'm just gonna shoot them on. You can do the same thing, throw a little bit of wood filler in them, and then throw some stain on it. Okay, some of these nails didn't set all the way in, so I'm going to use a punch. Punch those in. I'll throw some wood filler on it. And I'm just going to leave these screws in the back. They're not hurting anything. You won't see those anyway. Okay, I'll let these spots dry for a little while. Over here, lightly sand them and throw some stain on there. I don't really mind this color. It wasn't my first choice, but it's the stain that I had, so since this was only a prop, I just threw whatever, but I don't think it looks that bad, and I think I'll be able to hide any of these spots. And I didn't mean to leave these edges unstained. Just when you don't do woodworking stuff all the time, you tend to make mistakes like this. I'm more of a welding kind of guy. I like working with metal better. Okay, I've patched the holes and re-stained them, so everything looks really uniform now. And I'm going to go ahead and throw a coat of polyurethane on it. And the next time you see this, it'll be sitting in my living room. So here's the finished product. My wife got a little blanket to put on it. So we've taken pictures of our animals and done little props and stuff since about 2008. And so we're going to show you all of those cards and stay tuned to the end for this year's Christmas card. Thanks for watching.